Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Teena Jha with the news, your daily roundup of all that's made headlines through the day today across India and the world. As always, up first, the top stories. India committed to an open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region, asserts Prime Minister Modi at Quad Summit, emphasizes common solutions to resolve the region's economic challenges. In Tokyo, the Prime Minister meets industry leaders of Japan, invites them to invest in India, also interacts with the Indian diaspora. The World Health Organization honors ASHA workers with the Global Health Leaders Award. Prime Minister Modi lauds their outstanding contribution in the field of health. Blow to Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Cabinet fails to approve 21st Constitutional Amendment after ruling SLPP raises objection to it in its present form. Floods displace more than 7 lakh people in 22 districts of Assam. Meanwhile, in the Delhi NCR region, rain provides much-needed respite after days of extreme temperatures. In some other events that made news through the day today. India and the United States signed investment incentive agreement in Tokyo, Japan. RBI Governor Shaktikant Das indicates hike in repo rate in the upcoming monetary policy meetings. On International Day of Yoga this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to lead mass yoga demonstration on 21st of June at Mysuru. MyGov help desk facility provided on WhatsApp to access DigiLocker services. Prime Minister Modi headed Interstate Council reconstituted, Amit Shah chairman of the Standing Committee. National Recruitment Agency to conduct computer-based online CET for recruitment to non-gazetted posts by the year end. World Economic Forum announces coalition of CEOs of India's leading companies to tackle challenges of climate change. Russia-Ukraine conflict pushed more than 100 million people forcibly displaced around the world, according to UNHCR. Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa expands cabinet. New entrants include 8 more ministers, but finance minister yet to be named. Moody's warns prolonged high temperatures in India can affect growth by increasing inflation due to power outages and also loss in crop production. The top story of the day, India has reiterated its commitment to facilitating an open, free and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. Marking the launch of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity in Tokyo, Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid stress on deepening economic cooperation with allies to achieve the goals of development, peace and also prosperity. He said the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework reflects the collective will of all member countries to make the region an engine of global economic growth. Listen in.
हम क्षेत्र की आर्थिक चुनौतियों के लिए साझा समाधान खोजें, रचनात्मक व्यवस्थाएं बनाएं। एक्सेलेंसी, भारत एक इंक्लूसिव और फ्लेक्सिबल इंडो पैसिफिक इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क के निर्माण के लिए आप सभी के साथ काम करेगा।
12 countries are members of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework announced by US President Joe Biden in Tokyo on Monday. The White House says it will help the US work more closely with Asian economies on supply chains, digital trade, clean energy and anti-corruption efforts. The Indo-Pacific Economic Framework will have Australia, Brunei, India, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. Along with the United States, they represent 40% of the world's GDP. The countries said in a joint statement that the pact will help them collectively prepare their economies for the future after disruptions from the pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
The United States and Japan, together with 11 other nations, will be launching the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. This framework is a commitment to working with our close friends and partners in the region on challenges that matter most to ensuring economic competitiveness in the 21st century, by improving security and trust in the digital economy, protecting workers, strengthening supply chains, and tackling corruption that robs nations of their ability to serve their citizens.
In Tokyo, the Prime Minister also invited leading businessmen of Japan to invest in India. Prime Minister Modi took part in a roundtable meeting with industry leaders of Japan. He apprised them of India's reforms to ensure ease of doing business in the country, including industrial development, taxation, and labor reforms. Earlier, the Prime Minister met Nobuhiro Ando, the head of Japanese multinational information technology electronics company NEC Corporation. Their discussions focused on opportunities in areas like digital, education, fintech, infrastructure, and logistics networks. The Prime Minister also met Osamu Suzuki, advisor of the Suzuki Motor Corporation. The company will invest about 10,445 crore rupees by 2026 for manufacturing electric vehicles and batteries in the state of Gujarat. Another meeting was with the CEO of Japanese clothing brand Uniqlo. Discussions centered on investment opportunities in the textile manufacturing sector in India. The Prime Minister met Tadashi Yanai, CEO of Fast Retailing, which is the parent company of Uniqlo. With Masayoshi Son, founder and CEO of SoftBank Corporation, Prime Minister Modi discussed investment prospects in sectors like Indian technology, energy, finance, and also research and development. Back home in Varanasi, Gyanvapi Shringar Gauri case, the district judge's court has reserved its decision till Tuesday. It will also take up hearing in this case as well. Many petitions have been filed on behalf of both parties in the Gyanvapi Shringar Gauri case. The court said a process will be communicated on the basis of which case hearings will be taken up in future. Family pension rules have been relaxed for missing employees of the central government. The move will help government employees serving in militancy-affected areas, especially in Jammu and Kashmir, the Northeast, as well as Naxalite-affected areas. Currently, pension was not given to families of missing employees till they were declared dead under law or 7 years had passed from the date of their missing. Under the new rule, if a government servant goes missing while in service, pension shall be paid immediately to his family. In case the employee reappears and resumes service, the pension paid to the family will be deducted from his salary. In some more news from across the country, Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikant Das has indicated another hike in the policy rate in the Monetary Policy Review in early June to curb the rising inflation. The next meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee will be held on the 6th of June to the 8th. Retail inflation has remained above the central bank's satisfactory level for the past 4 months. 2 local terrorists of banned terrorist organization Lashkar-e-Toiba were arrested in Srinagar. Arms and ammunition were also recovered from them. The Resistance Front is an organization which is affiliated to LET. UGC's last date for online application and fee payment for NET has been extended till the 30th of May. The UGC had fixed the 20th of May as the last date for applications earlier. Meanwhile, floods in Assam have displaced over 720,000 people in as many as 22 districts of the state. Deaths due to the incidents have risen to 24. About 3.5 lakh people have been displaced in Nagaon alone. 220,000 people are affected in Kachar and over 58,000 people in Hojai. 2,095 villages are currently underwater, while standing crops on over 95,000 hectares are destroyed. Union Home Minister Amit Shah and his wife visited the Prime Minister's museum at the Teen Murti Bhavan in New Delhi. The museum, remember, was inaugurated last month on the 14th of April. The first session of the 18th Assembly of Uttar Pradesh began amid protests by the opposition parties on Monday. Governor Anandiben Patel read out the address in the House amidst the noise. She mentioned the various achievements of the state government, which is expected to present the state budget on the 26th of May. Samajwadi Party MLA Azam Khan and his son Abdullah Azam Khan took oath as MLAs from Rampur Assembly seat in Uttar Pradesh on Monday. International Yoga Day will be observed on the 21st of June. As every year, the main event will be held in Mysuru, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lead the mass yoga program. Ayush Minister Sarbanand Sonowal said, since this International Yoga Day is being held in the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the day will be celebrated at 75 prominent places across the country. Apart from the main event in Mysuru, another attraction will be Guardian Ring, which is a relay yoga streaming event, according to the minister.
21 जून को हम मैसूरू में फाइनल इवेंट मास योगा डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन होंगे, जिस पे हमारे देश के आदर्शवादी नेता माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी नेतृत्व देंगे और उसी हिसाब से देश के अलग अलग प्रांतों में 75 आइकॉनिक लोकेशन में इंटरनेशनल डे ऑफ योगा मनाया जाएगा.
And on the weather front, the Met Department has predicted heavy rains in the northern, western and eastern regions of the country in the next 2 days. There is also a possibility of a dust storm. Overnight rains on Monday brought down temperatures in Delhi NCR region. The Met Department has also predicted thunderstorms till the 28th of May.
जो ज़्यादा एक्टिव वेस्टर्न डिस्टर्बेंस हीट किया है, इसके वजह से अभी जो हीट वेव का जो लगातार चल रहा था, जैसे कोई छोटा विंड आ गया या क्लाउड आ गया, कम होता था फिर ज़्यादा बढ़ता था, अभी ऐसे वाला कंडीशन नहीं है. धीरे धीरे फिर बढ़ेगा, लेकिन हीट वेव 28 तक नहीं है.
And with that, time for a short break here. But on the other side, there's no dearth of themes to debate at the World Economic Forum in Davos. More details on those themes and all the highlights from the event when the news returns. Do stay with us. Bills passed by Parliament.
Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The bill is passed.
जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें, मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष में.
Laws that govern the country. How will they affect us? Let our top experts tell you all about their impact and implications in Bills and Insight, only on Sansad TV. Thanks for staying with us. Time now for all the main developments from the Russia-Ukraine war that has entered its 89th day. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the World Economic Forum in Davos through a video link on Monday. He called for maximum sanctions against Russia, including an oil embargo. Zelensky said the international community needed to cut off all trade with Moscow. He also called for all Russian banks to be blocked, as well as complete withdrawal of foreign companies from Russia, saying Kiev needs at least $5 billion of financial support per month as it attempts to defy Moscow's offensive and rebuild Ukraine. Meanwhile, Germany has warned Hungary against blocking efforts to impose a European Union-wide embargo on Russian oil imports. It said there are different solutions for different countries and everyone, including Hungary, has to work on finding one solution. Russia's defense ministry says its forces have pounded dozens of targets in eastern Ukraine with artillery strikes as troops attempt to encircle the city of Severodonetsk. Russia's air force hit 4 command centers, a communications point, an anti-aircraft missile system, and 87 other areas where Ukrainian military equipment amassed. The EU has extended its suspension of rules against overspending by the bloc's governments until the end of 2023, prolonging a pandemic-era reprieve because of Russia's offensive. The EU suspended its public spending rules for national governments in March 2020 because of the COVID-19 restrictions. Known as the Stability and Growth Pact, the rules limit deficit spending to 3% of a country's overall economy and debt to 60%. Warsaw is terminating an intergovernmental agreement with Russia regarding the Yamal gas pipeline. Poland said Russia's aggression against Ukraine has confirmed the Polish government's determination to become completely independent from Russian gas. It added that Gazprom was not a reliable partner. US President Joe Biden said Russia has to pay a long-term price for what he called its barbarism in Ukraine in terms of sanctions imposed on Moscow by the US and its allies. He said if after any future rapprochement between Russia and Ukraine, the sanctions are not continued, then what signal does that send to China about the cost of attempting to take Taiwan by force? Meanwhile, a Ukrainian court sentenced a 21-year-old Russian soldier to life in prison on Monday for killing a Ukrainian civilian in the first war crimes trial held since Russia's invasion. Vadim Shishimarin was accused of shooting a Ukrainian civilian in the head in a village in the northeastern Sumy region in the early days of the war. He pleaded guilty and testified that he shot the man after being ordered to do so. He told the court that an officer insisted that the Ukrainian man who was speaking on his cell phone could pinpoint their location to the Ukrainian forces. Time now for some other global updates. Australia's new centre-left Prime Minister Anthony Albanese took office on Monday, a few hours before flying out to attend the Quad Summit in Tokyo. Albanese has said that Australia is willing to engage with the world on the important issue of climate change. Listen in. Incredibly honoured and humbled, said Anthony Albanese after taking over as the new Prime Minister of Australia on Monday. Albanese was sworn in ahead of a Tokyo summit with US President Joe Biden, even as vote counting continued to determine whether he will control a majority in Parliament. Albanese told reporters that his upcoming meetings with the Quad leaders in Tokyo will be an opportunity to tell the world that there is a new government in Australia. Besides Biden and Albanese, the Quad summit will feature Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Albanese's centre-left Labour Party ousted predecessor Scott Morrison's Conservative coalition at Saturday's election. The coalition had been in power under 3 prime ministers for 9 years. Albanese said his government will put Australia's national interests first and that the China relationship will remain a difficult one. Biden rang Albanese to congratulate him on his election win and express the president's wish to make the country's alliance stronger. Morrison's decision to resign as Prime Minister during the early vote counting enabled Albanese being appointed as Prime Minister, given that it is yet unknown whether he can control a majority of seats in Parliament's lower chamber where governments are formed. Bureau Report, Sansad TV. And in our neighbourhood, Sri Lanka's new Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe suffered a major setback when a proposal for the 21st Amendment to the Constitution was not tabled. The amendment would have curbed the powers of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The proposal in its present form was not tabled in the cabinet after lawmakers of the ruling SLPP opposed it. They demanded that the proposed law be approved by the Attorney General before sending it to the cabinet. The Constitution is set to repeal 20A of the 21st Amendment, which had given President Gotabaya Rajapaksa unlimited powers after scrapping the 19th Amendment. And on to all the highlights from the World Economic Forum that got underway in Davos more than 2 years after the coronavirus pandemic kept business and political leaders away. But notwithstanding the hiatus, there's no shortage of urgent issues for the World Economic Forum's annual meeting to tackle. Here's a report. This year, there is no dearth of themes at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is keeping the organizers busy, having unleashed soaring food and fuel prices. Other issues include climate change, drought and food shortages in Africa, the yawning inequality between rich and poor, and the fact that the COVID pandemic is far from over. President Zelensky is speaking the opening day by video from Kiev with the country's foreign minister and a sizable delegation of other top Ukrainian officials in attendance. They'll be joined by world leaders like German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, US climate envoy John Kerry, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. President Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine means that Russian business and political leaders have not been invited to the gathering this year. Scores of CEOs and other business leaders will be looking into ways as to how the private sector can support Ukraine. As has been the case in the past, anti-capitalist demonstrators have chosen the venue to express their ire against the so-called economic elites, whom they accuse of putting profits over people. While Ukraine is the theme on the first day of the meeting, climate and environmental issues will be a recurring, constant theme. 1/3 of the 270 panel discussions through Thursday's finale will focus on climate change or its direct effects. Global warming, extreme weather, efforts to reach net zero emissions, and explore new, cleaner sources of energy than carbon-churning fossil fuels will all be on the agenda. Bureau Report, Sansad TV. India is undergoing a major transformation in the digital space and is determined to continue with major reforms with a strong political leadership. Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant said this at an event organized on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos. He asserted that India will play an important role in shaping the global economy as well. Kant said that in recent years, India has undertaken several major reforms which have strengthened the country's growth. He also informed that the number of startups in India have increased from double digits to more than 10,000 now. Continuing with some other news stories from across the globe. American President Joe Biden has said that the US will intervene militarily to defend Taiwan if China were to invade the country. Speaking at a news conference in Tokyo after holding talks with Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, Biden said the US supports the One China policy, but that does not mean that China has the jurisdiction to use force to take over Taiwan, adding that his expectation is that it will not be attempted by China. Under the One China policy, the US recognizes Beijing as the government of China and doesn't have diplomatic relations with Taiwan. On the other hand, the Chinese Foreign Ministry expressed strong dissatisfaction and resolute opposition to Biden's remarks. Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said China has no room for compromise or concessions on issues involving China's core interests like sovereignty and territorial integrity. He added that China will take firm action to safeguard its sovereignty and security interests. Biden's statement was one of the most forceful presidential statements in support of self-governing in decades. The new government of France held its first cabinet meeting at the Élysée Palace on Monday. French President Emmanuel Macron said his ministers have been appointed to act at the service of the French people and in an unprecedented context with the end of the pandemic and a war in Europe. Macron announced a new-look cabinet last Friday with Elisabeth Borne, France's first female prime minister in 30 years. Afghanistan's Taliban rulers on Sunday began enforcing an order requiring all female TV news anchors to cover their faces while on air. After the order was announced on Thursday, only a handful of news outlets complied with the order. But on Sunday, most female anchors were seen with their faces covered after the Taliban's Vice and Virtue Ministry began enforcing the decree. The Information and Culture Ministry previously announced that the policy was final and non-negotiable. Baghdad streets were empty of people on Monday as a massive sandstorm hit the Iraqi capital and several other provinces in the country. A thick blanket of dust covered roads and buildings in Baghdad with an orange film. Drivers kept car headlights on to see the road during the latest sandstorm which engulfed the country. Many people were taken to the hospitals and had to be treated for breathing difficulties. So after all the global updates, it's time now for all the sporting action. Starting with hockey, defending champions India conceded a late goal to allow arch rivals Pakistan walk away with a 1-1 draw in their opening Pool A match of the Asia Cup men's hockey tournament today. India took the lead in the 9th minute through Karthi Selvam before Abdul Rana broke their neighbour's heart by equalising in the 59th from a penalty corner. India will next play Japan on Tuesday. In cricket, the IPL playoffs are to begin tomorrow in the Qualifier 1. Table toppers Gujarat Titans will take on second-place Rajasthan Royals at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata. The team winning this match will reach the finals of the IPL 15. The team which loses in Qualifier 1 will then play the winner of Eliminator to be played between Lucknow Super Giants and Royal Challengers Bangalore in Qualifier 2 for a place in the final of the tournament. In a remarkable recovery, Bangladesh were 277 for 5 by the end of the day one, in fact, of the Mirpur test against Sri Lanka. The host team were reduced to 5 for 24 in the 7th over of the test. Liton Das and Mushfiqur Rahim added 253 runs for the unbeaten 6th wicket partnership. Das was not out on 135 and Mushfiqur on 150. Moving to the F1 racing track, world champion Max Verstappen led his teammate Sergio Perez to Red Bull 1-2 finish in the Spanish Grand Prix and claimed the lead in this year's title race on a bad day for Ferrari. This is Verstappen's third successive win of the season. George Russell confirmed Mercedes' revival by finishing third. Talking about tennis, Spanish teenager Carlos Alcaraz Garcia has made it to the second round with an easy win in the first. Alcaraz beat Argentina's Juan Ignacio Londero in straight sets 6-4, 6-2, 6-0. Alcaraz is drawn to meet 13-time champion and his idol Rafael Nadal in the quarterfinals and world number 1 Novak Djokovic as well in the semi-finals. In football, Manchester City came back from 2 goals down in the second half to beat Aston Villa 3-2 to be crowned champions of the English Premier League 2021-22. Ike Gundogan scored 2 vital goals, including the winner, to help City win their 4th league title in 5 years. It was a heartbreak yet again for Liverpool as they failed to win the title by a solitary point. Liverpool won 3-1 win over Wolves at home in Anfield. In some remarkable news for India, the World Health Organization has honored our 1 million ASHA health workers with the Global Health Award. ASHA health workers have been instrumental in connecting people to the health system during the COVID-19 pandemic and ensuring access to primary health care services for all poor people living in rural areas. The global health body said ASHA workers played a major role in promoting immunization for diseases of mothers and children, community health, treatment of hypertension and TB, nutrition, hygiene, and healthy lifestyle. The award was instituted in the year 2019. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated all the ASHA workers on receiving the WHO award. He said ASHA workers are at the forefront in ensuring a healthy India. And before we wrap up the bulletin, let's take a relook at the headlines. India committed to an open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region, asserts Prime Minister Modi at the Quad Summit, emphasizes common solutions to resolve the region's economic challenges. In Tokyo, the Prime Minister meets industry leaders of Japan, invites them to invest in India. He also interacts with the Indian diaspora. World Health Organization honors ASHA workers with the Global Health Leaders Award. Prime Minister Modi lauds their outstanding contribution in the field of health. Blow to Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Cabinet fails to approve 21st Constitutional Amendment after ruling SLPP raises objection to it in its present form. And floods displace more than 7 lakh people in 22 districts of Assam. Meanwhile, in Delhi NCR region, rain provides much-needed respite after days of extreme temperatures. So that's it from us on the News Monday edition. We'll be back same time tomorrow now. Take care of yourselves. Good night.